Welcome to the latest episode of Templar Talks. This is an edition of Templar Talks Universes Beyond because we're just stealing WotC IP. Cool. I don't think that's trademarked. Like, we've got a guest on, so Universes Beyond. Myself and Todd are joined today by the co-owner of Skyward Fire Games, Simon.
Hello.
So to preface this whole episode, we're actually a lot more organised than normal because this is the February episode and we're recording this quite early in January.
Yeah, so obviously this came in a bit late. We ended up changing up our format and idea for Beyond Universes. Don't worry about it. Disregard any date references in this episode. It will make sense going forward. Thank you very much, and back to the episode.
However, we have absolutely no agenda. So this is effectively going to be waffling about what it's like to own a store for the foreseeable. But to kick things off, I guess, how long have you actually been a store owner now? Because it's been a fair old while.
Yeah, we were 7 years in August, so yeah, 7 and a bit.
Nice.
Almost 7.5-ish. Yeah.
Nice. What was the decision behind it? Was it because obviously it's yourself and Luke, yeah. I believe. Was it always just you and Luke, or were there more?
So Luke wanted to set something up because the place we previously played in Lowestoft closed down.
Sure.
And then there wasn't anywhere for like 3 or 4 months, and we thought maybe there was a gap in the market, we could do something. But it was Luke wanted to do something because he used to work from home doing like buying and selling video games.
Sure.
And then he got into Magic, so he started buying and selling Magic stuff. And I'd already known him a bit from playing at different game stores in Norwich and things like that. So then we just, when the place closed here, we thought, he wanted to do it. He wanted someone to invest, and I had a bit of money and was bored of my current job. So I was like, might as well. I'm young, don't have any like kids or anything. Just give it a go.
Yeah, that's fair. What did you do before the store? If you don't.
So before this, I was an offshore wind power consultant.
What is an offshore wind power consultant?
So the UK is one of the biggest wind. Well, again, I haven't really looked into it in 7 and a bit years, but 7 and a bit years ago, the UK was like the biggest for offshore wind power in Europe, and it was just there was a lot of money in it, and people wanted to know things and see what they wanted to invest in and things like that. It was boring, but it was.
I mean, if anything,
fine.
that market's increased.
Yeah, offshore. It's still going strong. It's just, and it was fine work. I was just a bit bored of it, really.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think everyone gets like that. There's always that idea. I don't know about you, Todd, but like the idea of opening a game shop is always like in the back of your mind, though. Like, I know we always joke about like who would own a game store, who'd run a game store, but like I think if it's one of those things, if you won the lottery or something, that type of vibe, you'd want something.
If you didn't care about how much money you ever had, that'd be fine.
Yeah. But something that's you're passionate about, like on a day to day, and I definitely think going into that kind of side of the are you going to become a millionaire by opening a game store? I think it's been evident that it's more of a passion project for those involved, and I think especially with you are solely driving the competitive Magic scene here, I think, and I don't think there's a sensical reason to do it other than passion, right? Because like WotC are not the most supportive company.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've actually spoken to Wizards of the Coast for we just fill in the forms, get the pre-releases, and I don't think we've actually spoken to a single person there for since probably pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But so the communication was there pre-COVID?
So it was, and we also started going through the process of becoming a premium store, and you have to jump through a million different hoops and talk to them constantly, and then it just
petered out.
Yeah, just went.
What are the at least previously when you were talking about it, what do you have to do to be a premium store?
So you have to have kind of everything labelled. You can't have just generic things behind your counter. You have to have, so you might notice if you go into the shop, we've got things that say like card gaming on top of the wall, and in like board gaming and models and stuff.
Sure.
You have to have that kind of laying out your entire but they're very specific. If you had a shop that was just booster packs behind a wall and some nice clean chairs and nothing else, you'd get it. It's just if you want to put loads of different stock in your shop, they want it to all be kind of minimalist and well, that's all great. You've got to sell product at the end of the day, haven't you? So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's a weird one because I might be wrong, but I don't think there's many premium stores in the UK. Like,
I think every single Geek Retreat is a premium store.
Geek Retreat is the one that
they've got their weird thing going on with them, but
they seem like quite an interesting operation.
I could talk about Geek Retreat all day, so maybe we don't go too far down that rabbit hole.
I remember, wasn't it you when they would like the Lord of the Rings promo stuff? And they were handing out like those dice.
I cleaned out Ipswich Geek Retreat of their Lord of the Rings packs.
But the dice, I think, were like, what was the official? What were you supposed to do with those dice for Lord of the Rings?
I can't remember, but it was like every 50 quid or something, a bundle or something like that.
Every bundle, Geek Retreat were just giving me 5.
I think they were giving out like 1 per 5 spent or 10 spent. It was like really generous.
What frustrates me about Geek Retreat though is that they, like you said, they've got the layout, and certainly the Ipswich one is a nice store to go in, but they don't really have much play space, and they don't particularly run many events, and I think that's the bread and butter of any game, whether it's Lorcana, Magic, Flesh and Blood. If you're not running events, and what's the point of me buying loads of product if I've got nowhere to play?
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is a lot of the issue, because I notice here it's been interesting, because I think before I even knew you at all, I've probably come in here, like a couple of times, popped in kind of thing, and I definitely think over the year you just have got bigger and bigger, and it feels like you're trying to take over this industrial park almost.
we have been increasing it. I'm not sure. So part of that is because the first few years, me and Luke worked like 100 hours a week and took less than minimum wage and just pumped everything we had back into more and more stock. And we've got to that point now where, because we've got so much stock, we just keep going into it. We still don't pay ourselves much more than minimum wage. So it's one of those ones where maybe at some point we'll start taking a bit more money out and put less stock in, but Luke does like buying things. We always have loads of stuff in the shop. We always have.
I mean, to be honest, the store that, like, out of all of the stores in Norfolk, you're like, I enjoy coming here purely because your shelves have just the wildest.
Yeah, there's just like random Japanese stuff.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. And the secret layers, you obviously had a break-in, which was pretty rough for everyone, right? To see that we don't like stores losing out, but you did have that whole turning table of secret layers, which was nice.
We've still got a bunch of secret layers and stuff. We buy them in if people want to get them and get individual cards from them and stuff. We've settled down on it as much recently, but we've still got loads of secret layers upstairs.
I definitely, like, firstly, we're in to be, the James Gurney moment of the episode. We're actually not in Norfolk. But besides, we're not, are we? I'm sure we're not.
You're not technically, but it's so
pretty close.
That it doesn't.
Okay, good. I second guess my pedantic nature.
I apologise to any Suffolk locals for insulting you.
But we've got a Norwich postcode. So.
No one really wants to claim Lowestoft.
That is very true. That is very true.
But like, what made you go that? I guess it's more American style of game store, in that all the game stores I've visited in the US, at least, this feels very similar, like in terms of you stock the singles for some of the bigger games, you have all the weird and wonderful Japanese Pokemon, it's a little bit, you'd have to come here, right? Like Geek Retreat, a lot of the time it feels like you could go to a Toy Master or like what was Toys R Us or whatever.
Smiths,
whereas here is like that kind of almost boutique experience.
Well, I think you just hit the nail on the head. You don't just want to be the same as every other store, do you? You want to be able to offer the variety. You want someone to come in and be like, oh, this is cool, there's lots of different stuff, and you want it to be memorable, whereas if you, as you say, go into a Toy Master, you just buy a booster pack, but you can do that anywhere, right? You want to kind of get people in and make them think about you when they're thinking about these kinds of things. Whereas if we just did booster packs, then you'd go to just the Waterstones or whatever. It doesn't really. There's no incentive for you to come out of your way to come here. So.
When did you branch out to include the play space? Because originally you were just a store.
So we had a store on the other side. Not that anyone can see, so it doesn't really matter. But so we were just in one bit of the building, and we did have the play space when we first opened. So we had the store, the play space, and then Then we expanded during COVID because the other side of the building was a gym, which is where we're sitting now.
Okay, so this kind of half, like to the left.
Yes, and above as well was a gym.
Cool.
So they folded during COVID, unfortunately, because it happens. Whereas COVID was surprisingly good for online sales of our kind of hobby and stuff. So we took the dive, took this bit, and that meant we could have a dedicated play space that is, it needs a bit of TLC now, it's been a few years, and then we could just keep expanding the stock in the other room. Because stock, I mean, if you don't have the stock, you're not going to sell it. So
that kind of leads a little bit on I was obviously going to mention COVID, and it sounds like, that wasn't a negative for you. Has it been a good, like, is it easy for a store to have a play space, because it's a lot of square meters it's quite a way out of the way a little bit where we are. Do you get like regular filling of the play space? Is it something that you have to run events for?
So during the week we have an event on every single day. During the week it's hard. The games ebb and flow, but usually we'll try and run 2 events, and they'll have, if we're lucky, 8 to 10 people, and people come in and play board games. And I think, and Saturdays, we have Pokemon on Saturday, and Pokemon's always been good for us. It's just one of those local things. I'm not sure why, but anyway, I think you need the play space, because if you don't, again, why are people coming to you? Like, why would they choose to buy stuff from you over buying? Because let's be honest, everything's cheaper online. You can go to a million different websites online from someone that has all their stock living in their back bedroom, and they'll sell it to you for much cheaper than we'd ever do it, because we've got a premises we've got to pay for, we've got bills, we've got staff, we can't, and we've never tried to do that. Some places be like, we're going to be the cheapest, but if you provide things like a nice play space for a reason for people to come down, we don't charge for our play space either. We just kind of hope people will buy some snacks and buy a few things. Because when you get people here and they're sitting there, they will go into the shop and buy a booster pack or whatever. And so we've kind of, I think the play space is important to get people in to, I mean, why would you buy boost? Some games you buy booster packs because you just want to collect them. But if you want to play, like Magic or things, then you want somewhere to play. And when you come in to play, you spend money.
I'm not just saying it because, we're talking to you, but I do think you've got quite a good balance with it. Because I know, to dredge up some of the stores of the past, like Black Tower went heavily in Norwich, went heavily down that, like, we'll beat anyone on price vibe, and it didn't work out too well. And obviously Games Table, when we're going to charge less for product but charge you to come in, so it is, I do think it is a fine balance. I can't, I sympathise with having to work out the line where to
It's
go.
a fine balance.
You also, there's, I mean, obviously you've, like you said, you identified a gap in the market. I think you've monopolised lower stuff to an extent.
There's a few shops that pop up and do things around here, but Great Yarmouth didn't have one for a bit as well, so a lot of their players came from around. But the problem is with Lowestoft is half your catchment is the sea. So, because you've got like a semicircle catchment, and well, it's not bad. I think we've kind of hit the point now where I don't see our communities growing drastically. It feels a bit saturated, but that's fine. These games are relatively niche. So
how impactful has Lorcana been? Like, has that drawn new players? Because we've obviously, and you yourself have been to some Axion events. They've adopted Lorcana as one of their events that they like to, run events for. And I use the word twice there, but they have got a whole different demographic of players coming in to play the game. Has that been
Lorcana definitely has attracted a lot of people that weren't necessarily playing before. Just a lot, you'll see recent, most new games that come out, or the bigger games, are IP based.
Yeah.
So Disney, the Star Wars game. I think the only game I can think of recently is Flesh and Blood that hasn't been completely based on an intellectual property.
MetaZ? MetaZ?
Well, that's not a game anymore, is it? So, but yeah, it feels like you need that now to get people in, because people want to buy cards because they like the characters, then they'll move into playing it and buying more cards. If without an IP, I feel like a card game's never really gonna stick around.
So if you take off, so for a bit of context for those that aren't privy, and I hope it's everyone listening privy to mine and Simon's private DM conversations. I know obviously you're not too much of a fan of Universes Beyond in terms of as a Magic fan. If you take off the Magic fan hat and put on the store owner hat, do you think it's...
Universes, I said this when they announced it, I think it is a fantastic decision for them to make money. Personally, as maybe an old guard player, I've been playing for 11, 12 years now. It's not Magic how I'd want to play, but Magic, sometimes things move away from the demographic that I started on, and that's fine. Companies need to make money. It's not their fault.
So obviously as well, you and Luke are clearly entrenched Magic fan. Magic was
we met playing Magic.
The draw from the start. Would you ever see a world where you guys cease to support Magic if it made sense business wise, or do you think the draw is too much from a personal point of view?
I could see us doing it, but I don't ever. Magic is probably selling better for us now than it ever has.
Really?
It's not, because I think when you play a lot of Magic and you're in the competitive scene, you kind of get a bit blinded. You're like, I want this competitive, but what you don't realise is that Magic's mainly Commander now, and casual people playing around the tabletop that come in, buy booster packs, get really excited by you get to play Ezio from Assassin's Creed. And as a store owner, I think if you don't follow that trend and cater to the more casual players, then...
Do you run a Commander night?
We have Commanders on Tuesday. We don't... It's just a turn up and play type thing. We don't try and emphasise a competitive version, getting prizes and things. We emphasise you get promos and prizes if you come and play more than... Because when we first started, we tried to do a competitive Commander night, and it ended up with people throwing cards at each other and things like that. And it's so we vowed never to do competitive Commander again.
Did you ever see Alpha Games in Bury tried to do a competitive Commander league, and they had this really weird
banned
red, blue, black card system where you could only have a certain amount of... When I say these colours, I don't mean the colours of the game. They had categories of these cards are red and these cards are green.
So
you can only have 4 from red or 2 from blue. And I remember I messaged him and said, how do I play this? And he sent me the link to the doc, and I was kind of I have no fucking clue what deck am I allowed to build at this point, and never showed out. I think competitive Commander is hard.
I don't dislike competitive Commander, but it's just one of those things when you're putting that much time and effort into something like home brewing to make it work, and then people asking, it's is it worth it at that point? You either run an event with some pre-made rules that are already available, or you just don't run the event. It's just not worth putting the time in my opinion.
I don't disagree. I think Commander, I got into Magic playing Commander, and I'm so against it now because I don't understand, and I know it's the most popular event at Athena in Norwich. The Command Fests at Axion are huge, and obviously you have a Commander night here. I don't understand why you'd go to play Commander with strangers. I don't get it, because for me it's kind of if you're not playing competitively and there's the rule set in place that you are just trying to win, how do you manage that dynamic? And equally as well, if everyone's just brewing and doing their fun thing, how do you gauge whose thing is fun? And everyone, it's just such a weird
it is weird
approach for me.
But the thing is with Magic as well, when you look at getting started now, if you were a player and you were like, I want to play some Magic the Gathering, I want to get started, you go into a shop like ours and everything that you buy straight out of the box to play with is Commander. They don't do Challenger decks anymore for Pioneer or Standard or anything. It's just you get 5 Commander decks, 4 Commander decks every single set. You want to start playing Magic, there's Commander stuff.
There's Commander.
There's nothing.
Access is definitely easy. Do you think what Flesh and Blood have done with their Armory decks, does that something that Magic should be doing? Should they be doing more
I 100%
Challenger?
think Challenger decks are fantastic, but I don't think Wizards, which is their prerogative if Commander's making more money, I just don't think
There's
competitive Magic is their focus at the moment. And
Controversially, I actually thought Armory decks were terrible because I bought several of them and then realised that, like, as soon as I went to my first Flesh and Blood event, everyone had buckets of the commons that come in them. So it was kind of like, oh, I've spent a tenner on this deck to play, and then I've been given this.
you're not talking about Armory decks.
Oh, am I not? Am I talking about? I'm talking about Blitz decks.
Blitz, yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
Armory
Armory
decks are
are
classic constructed ones that they have completely new obviously they've got some chaff commons and uncommons in, but they've also got cards that are built. So I play a hero called KO, doesn't really matter. They released an Armory deck for him, which has specific cards for him that are only in the Armory deck. So I had to buy an Armory deck, even though I already played him, just to have those cards. I like what they're doing. I think it does. I think maybe doing it a bit too quickly because they release one every month and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
But
For context, this is Flesh and Blood, by the way.
Flesh and Blood, it's not Magic or anything. But so yeah, I think it is good in Flesh and Blood. But again, Flesh and Blood is all about competitive format like that. They're not.
They've tried to take the boomers of Magic almost.
They have.
It's been marketed.
So
like that.
they seem, in my opinion, to have seen that Magic was following a bit with its competitive play and have just gone in really hard on it.
I've got to admit, I always have an eye there, just purely based off that they run UK events that are large, and obviously Axiom do that for Magic, but it's like 3 to 4 a year, and you know what you do in the rest of the time.
Well,
when you enjoy these large competitive events.
But that's the issue with WotC kind of farming it out to other companies, is they're always going to have bias. So like when it was Legacy, there was a huge draw towards doing events in Italy because they're an Italian company, and it is natural. Whereas I think because LSS is so, because are they New Zealand or Australia?
I think they're New Zealand.
I think but they're so far detached from the typical regions that they kind of support everywhere.
Yeah, I mean they have it,
which is great.
Like when I was playing Magic before we started the store, 7-8 years ago, every weekend you'd have a GP or you'd have a Star City Games event, and they'd have a really good streaming team, and you could sit there all day and watch it, and it was fantastic. And that's what LSS do now, maybe not to the same level Magic did back in the day, because they're not quite at the same
level, yeah.
But you can every weekend go watch a Battle Hardened or a Calling or whatever being streamed online, and you can watch the game that you want to watch. You can watch people play it all day if you want to.
Do you think those what are they called, Spotlight series for Magic? Do you think that's going to slowly transition back into the days of GPs and becoming more common to have these events, or do you think it's just too little, too late?
I don't know. I think it would take a real change in the fundamentals of how they pushed Magic, because, as I said, they push Commander a lot, and I think maybe it's too late now to get a large swath of people in to play Standard and Modern and those kind of more competitive 60 card facing each other events. Yeah.
That kind of loosely leads on to my question about how do you decide, because we're big attenders of the RCQ as a team, the RCQs as a team. Sometimes, like when it's a particular format, you run more. than another format. How do you kind of decide what to buy into
So
those RCQ kits?
the RCQ kits are weird. The whole thing's weird, but we've now kind of just hit to the point where I think we're just going to do 2 for every season,
Every format,
just 2, and just then people know where they stand, and we don't make money off it really.
Yeah.
But we get people in the store, and people come into the store and spend some money, so that's at least something. We don't lose money, but it's not a big draw for us. I potentially, if I wasn't such a Magic player, we might not be doing it. We might only do one every season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just Standard has a bit of a weirder version, even though I think it's a fun format. A lot of the ingrained players that have spent lots of money on modern decks want to play modern. And that's fair. You spend a lot of money, you want to play the formats you want to play. So
I have to admit, like, weirdly, from my perspective anyway, as a more entrenched modern player, I think I'm spending a hell of a lot more on average in RCQ seasons for Standard, because even from the last season to this season, I've effectively had to buy 2 entire decks.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the cards are still legal, the crucial key cards have swapped out and they're not necessarily playable. Obviously, if I wasn't competitive, I could just play a shit deck, but I think Standard is a pretty damn expensive format now.
I think that's and this is coming from a player who's equally been playing 11, 12 years. That wasn't a problem previously, because when it was, Khans of Tarkir, Fates Reforged, and those formats where Standard was a popular format, and people were
Jeskai Black
cracking packs. The market was saturated with the cards, whereas I think now, especially in Suffolk, the community is not as large as it once was pre-COVID. That the cards just aren't in circulation locally, which means that you're going to other places to pick up your cards build those decks.
I do think the cards are cheaper. At least, so I started playing modern. So I started playing Magic in 2019, and my first comp format was modern because it was the day I could go to. So, okay, cool, I have to borrow a modern deck, then I have to go buy one. I think is it more that players are just more entitled now? Because when I started playing Magic, I saw stuff like Jund and was just like, I'm never playing that because I can't afford it. Like, I'm not big into this hobby. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. Whereas now, you have to think Screaming Nemesis is a card that's really contentious because it was a mythic rarity in the deck that's traditionally quite affordable mono red. And obviously I think it's probably about 25 quid, something like that. 25 quid for a mythic? Is that really that? Like, I remember Liliana Tarmogoyf was like,
I mean, for Standard, Hazaret was similar, in that it was 25.
Don't get me started on Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
40 quid. Like, they what I think is more, like, I think Standard decks are the same price as they've always been. What I think is modern is cheaper.
Modern's definitely cheaper now. But that's what I mean when I'm complaining about Standard being expensive now. Was it just that Standard was always expensive?
Standard's always been expensive, but I think availability of cards has maybe crept that price up a little bit.
So what I think personally is competitive Magic players don't buy booster packs. Like,
sure.
I would say almost everyone in that room has built their Standard deck from buying singles, not from buying booster packs, right? So if people aren't buying booster packs and they're buying singles, where are those singles coming from? They're coming from people that might occasionally, or like Commander players, but then they don't always know the price of cards, so they don't tend to sell them as much.
Sure.
Or you've got stores that crack packs to sell like us, but we don't. It's just not that financially viable anymore.
I was going to say, is it even like, or not? If you don't mind answering, how many packs do you like? How many boxes do you crack on average for like a Standard?
For a Magic set,
yeah,
it depends. We'll crack a few collectors, try and get the cool cards or series or whatever, and then maybe like a case. Nowhere near as much as we used to.
Yeah, because you used to have videos of like cracking cases on cases.
But it's like, as you said, now you have to get a Screaming Nemesis, or you have to get like 2 to make the box even remotely viable to open. it's one of those things where stores, you have to put the time in, and you have to crack packs and not get anywhere near a guaranteed profit. So why would you?
When did it become like that? Because I know it was a few years ago. Francois from Axion talked to Michael into opening a box of MH2 because he said, they calculate all of their EV per box, and he was kind of like, "You're an idiot if you don't open this set. Like this set is typically very, lucrative." Yeah. Was that around the turning point you found as well, or?
Yeah, I would say when they started leaning heavily into reprints, would be so. I can't remember what set was the first one that did those. Like Strixhaven had the
Mystical Archive.
I can't remember if there was anything before that.
Well, not other than the inventions, right?
They must be.
But they were like
different, type level. But no, when they started making them so readily, and then
was that the introduction of the list? Do you think
Strixhaven was kind of like a foot in the water
because it had time warp, didn't it? And it has loads of natural order and things like that, and so many different printings that we still have loads upstairs. But that started knocking down the prices of regular cards. Because people were like, "Oh, these natural orders are worth 50 quid, so I'll crack open a bunch of them." But then they've just started putting them more and more, the amount of reprint sets and everything. Like, how much is a Liliana now? How much is a Tarmogoyf?
Yeah. I think it's interesting how the inventions were obviously that was a big thing of you're not going to get these, and I think it's weird that they've almost artificially done that with some of the recent stuff. So I actually regret buying them, but I wanted to get all of the fetches in retro foil when they redid them for MH2 and MH3. I think was the other one. But MH3, the foil retro fetches were numbered collector. Do you know what I mean? It was literally, I know people that opened cases and got, less than you can count on a hand.
Yeah.
And you kind of think they're almost artificially doing it. So why not bring inventions back like they did with the serialized cards? I think serialized cards, for the shit they get for printing money, I think it's actually a really smart idea because the Lord of the Rings experiment with the Post Malone buying the one ring, obviously that's an exception, but having who is it Yatka from P9, his deck is amazing, but it's you could buy this modern deck for 600 700 quid, or you could get his version for 40 grand or whatever the fuck it cost him. I think it's good to have those options, but it's weird they're not publicly doing it yet because it was so good. Do you think it would work for sets that aren't Lord of the Rings in terms of those
1 of 1
hyper scarce, not even 1 of 1, but 1 of 10?
1 of 10.
Or...
I think it has to be something iconic. I not just a random, because I've got I pulled a Renata number 496 or 500 or whatever, and it's 50 quid. But if it was 1 of 5, I don't think anyone would really care as much. But if it was 1 of 5 Optimus Primes, or I think that's kind of what Universes Beyond is going to maybe lean into.
Yeah, but I think iconic cards like Goyfs and I think it was really smart when they.
That's great for, as we said, entrenched Magic players.
Yeah, but sure.
Because if someone was I've got the 1 of 1 ring, Lord of the Ring, almost everyone's going to know what that is. But if you went up to a random person on the street and was I've got a 1 of 1 Tarmogoyf, they're going to be what are you talking about?
It actually makes me laugh. My dad actually texted me, I think 3 or 4 days ago, and was have you checked your old Magic cards? I've just seen an episode of whatever an auction show was, and there's this card called the Black Lotus and it's kind of I assumed you're so entrenched, you're just people know about the Black Lotus, right? Post Malone talked about it, surely you've heard. So it is funny how we get in our weird little bubbles, but I get what you mean. It was Lorcana, right? Those Stitch promos, was it Stitch promos?
Yes.
Were selling for silly money, and all the Enchanted, is it Enchanted?
Yes, Enchanted.
They're not quite where they used to be.
No. I think the original ones are still.
Yeah, set one else's. They've been. This is a bit irrelevant, but they've been faked a lot. The Lorcana Enchanteds.
Really?
I would, if you ever want to buy an enchanted, you've got to be real careful now.
I sold Elsa for $250, I think, and then regretted it like 3 months later when it was like $700.
Yeah, I think we
that's
got
always the way.
one graded in like a 10 and we sold it for like $2,000 or something.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you? So speaking of fakes, is that something you have a problem with as a store? Do people often try and trade in fakes? Or I know there was the the infamous one of the only players banned from Flesh and Blood situation
because of us, because of all the fakes he traded locally. Usually fakes aren't
going back
great.
to that, did he ever try and trade anything into the store?
No,
It was just okay.
But so fakes are usually relatively easy to tell if you've been doing it long enough, because if it was too good, then it requires effort and money, and then what's the point making fakes when you're spending effort and money on it? You want to just, So some of them get better, but there's always ways to tell, really. But you only really check if it's a really expensive card that people are trading in. There's no point checking every £3 rare, £2 rare.
Yeah, I remember sending stuff to buy a buy list troll trader in Cornwall, and I got a message back, and they were like, "Yeah, we're refusing this card because it's fake." And I was like, "Oh no, God, what's it gonna be?" And it was like Hercule's Recall, £2.
Who's even checking these things?
Did that used to be good? So I don't know. But yeah, so I didn't. They were like, "Would you like us to send it back?" I was like, "No."
Put it in the bin.
You can keep that.
It's interesting that they'd offer though, right? Like,
well, they have to, right? I obviously the other.
Oh yeah, I guess
80
legally you
cards
can't
were, the other 80 cards were real, right? So they obviously know I wasn't just trying to pull a fast one.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a lot of people that have it don't even know that they've got fakes. Like, I personally bought a Future Sight Tarmogoyf for like 2 years ago, and the guy sent it, and I just got it out of the sleeve, and I was like, "This isn't real." And I just messaged him and showed him the pictures of the bits that show it's not real, and he was like, "Yeah, I never actually took it out of the sleeve." So
and
a lot of people don't take cards out of the sleeve.
Really. I mean, that's why when a few months ago when you were looking at my jewels and reserve list stuff, I was a little bit like, I've never actually had this looked at, because you don't know as a player. Like you can look for a loop yourself, but if you're not dealing with it all the time, it is hard to gauge these kind of things. But like another semi kind of controversial topic, as it were, in terms of pulling a fast one. I know you mentioned it a bit earlier when you had the break-in. Did that affect you and Luke in terms of, did you ever think of kind of like, how impactful was it as a business? Was it kind of like just that's really inconvenient, we're going to have to file an insurance claim, or was it?
It was inconvenient.
Okay.
Police knocked on my door at like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
So you didn't know until?
No, because they didn't actually have any contact details for us. So, but apparently, because I'd called the police like 111 because someone left their kid here for like. The amount of people that just leave think we're like a daycare centre, it's crazy. So I had to call 111 and be like, "Someone's
that is not where I was expecting this to go."
I was like, "They've just left their kid here, and can you come and get them and take them home? Because like we can't just have like random 8-year-olds walking around."
Yeah.
Anyway, so they had my number because of that.
Yeah.
So and then they just rocked up at my house, and I was just there in my boxers, like,
"Hello."
They're like, "We think your store's been broken into," and I was like, "Oh, bloody great." So we just. It's never nice, because you put like your time and effort, like thousands upon thousands of hours being here, like trying to make it a success and do things for people, and then you just have people smash some windows and take your stuff and run away, right? It's not nice.
Did they focus on a particular game? Was it?
So they must have been in before, because they looked at our fancy cabinet with like our PSA cards in and stuff, and they just went straight for that, smashed it. And just picked a bunch off the floor and left again.
Oh, okay. It is weird that
it is weird because they're all graded, and they've all got individual numbers and stuff.
I think a lot of the times though, these are
people just see a price tag and they're like,
I mean, I've when you look at stuff like that, I think it's a pain in the arse to resell. Like even if you
it's dreadful. If you knew what you were doing, you'd come in and you'd. I don't want to give anyone advice, but you'd take booster boxes.
Yeah.
Leave with them.
Well, it was the same when fortunately for Athena, I don't think anything was taken when they were broken into a few
I think
weeks
they
ago.
broke their internet and took like 10 quid out of the till.
Yeah. No, I'm not even sure they took anything out of the till. They took something really like...
I know they broke their internet.
Yeah, it was like a destructive break-in that made no sense. And
Maybe they thought it was uploaded, like CCTV was uploaded.
There was another one that was quite bad though, wasn't it? The kind of really niche store. They used to come into Athena and sell like really high-end stuff.
I don't know. I know there was one that had like
I know there's
safe
Mountbatten used to be.
Well, Mountbatten, they were another cracker box company that folded because cracking boxes doesn't make money.
Did you know, like, I don't know if you guys know, and maybe I shouldn't know this, but Mountbatten, the guy that ran that hired a team of people that he'd specifically hire that had no interest or knowledge of Magic to crack packs. I picked stuff up from him once, and it was it was like going into a sweatshop because there were like 6 to 8 like 40 to 60 year olds just opening packs and sorting cards, and I'm like, what the fuck have I walked into? But,
I mean, that like as a business model, they were a very streamlined, low cost operation, and even then, they didn't particularly make it work, I don't think. But yeah, there was another one, I can't remember I think they were Cambridge based, but they had a lot of like really high end product, like reserved list stuff. And they certainly farmed a lot of the Athena community's most expensive cards. But I think they had quite a rough break-in as well. Where they lost a lot.
How were insurance with it? Because I know, like, obviously, the guy that Randolph. Is it Randolph Pokemon? I'm pretty sure it's Randolph who owns Ace Grading. They had a break-in, and he was mentioning about how it's difficult with, insurers see it as like, well, how much did this cardboard cost when it was open? Did you have any of that?
We did think that there might be one of those that if they really wanted to go down that route, they would say like, this card is worth, so a Pokemon packs, you get 10 cards, it's 4 quid, so the card's worth 40p. We did worry that they might do that, but luckily we had a record of everything that was in there.
And I guess because you have it listed,
because they were graded and everything, we could find exact prices kind of on eBay of a card, the same card with the same grade being sold previously, and it was fine. I think they could have kicked up a fuss and could have made a big deal about it, but maybe with a company like Ace Grading, I don't know, they're grading other people's cards as well.
So it's even more.
So it's a bit more. There's a bit more layers to it. Also, there's probably a lot more money than what we had stolen. We had a good chunk stolen. We'd been paying insurance for 5-6 years with no claims, and then we lose £8,000-9,000 worth of cards.
It's going to be
not a huge amount for them.
Yeah, and I guess if it's a grading company as well, I guess the cards are probably, if the cards were, 10 candidates that are ungraded still,
you never know.
I guess that's maybe more of a up in the air weird thing. So obviously I'm conscious of time. There's apologies if there's background noise, by the way. There's an RCQ running right now. Hopefully James and Michael are still in. They were in the semi-finals. We don't know how it's going. But to kind of finish things off in terms of, we've spoken about if you'd ever leave Magic if it made business sense or whatever. What are as a store locally at least, what are the games that do best here in terms of the comp scene? And equally, to give some good praise and credit to some of the companies, which are the games that kind of support LGSs the most that do that? Because I've heard good things about a lot of companies and bad about others.
So for most successful game here, it would hands down be Pokemon. Mainly because there's just still so much hype for Pokemon cards.
I keep meaning to bring all mine in to trade in here.
There's just so much nostalgia involved as well. It's just one of those ones that now it's just going to keep going through generations. Like the kids that are buying them now are going to come in 10 years and buy the packs in 10 years again when they got more money. Anyway, and our local scene is good player-wise because we have a few competitive players that are really good with helping kids get into the game and adults and everything. And because that's been so good over the past 3 or 4 years, newer players then help newer players in. So that's been really, really good, actually.
Something missing from Magic, I feel.
Yeah.
I think every like, to be fair, as much as like, I'd say you'd be good at, like, not to throw you under the bus, Todd, just as an example, but no, I'll also say myself, like, I think both of us would be quite good at onboarding new players, but on a Friday night when you're there to play Comp F&M and you've had a shit week at work, you're not in that mode of I'm going to be nice to the new guy. Like, you're just kind of like, hello, mate. Like,
equally, to like push back on that a little bit, that's not the place to onboard new players, right?
No.
And there isn't really an avenue for players to get involved, at least not from the outside.
The reason that our Pokemon community is also good is because you do have quite a lot of the newer players. So round 1 and 2 is a bit of a crapshoot because you go against whoever. But then round 3 and 4, if you're 0-2, you'll go against someone else that's 0-2, and they're probably new as well. So then it kind of because you get a lot of players, it separates out. And you get the more competitive players playing each other, and you get the people that just want to learn and have more fun playing each other as well. And that's what people look like. That's really good. But then when you start to lose the numbers, like if you've got 6 Magic players, you might have all 3 rounds if as a new player against 3 people that have top tier meta decks.
No, I get what you mean.
And then the games that support you.
Games that support us. So Pokemon do good support. You get a lot of promos for Pokemon, which is nice because, I mean, everyone loves promos, right? But they're big enough that they can do it without too much thought.
Do their promos make sense? I'm just thinking of like with Fanfinity's RCQs, we just got.
What, you don't think Mayhem Devil and Force of Despair make sense for a standard RCQ?
And then equally for Modern, we got Supreme Verdict and what was the other one? Was it a banned card in Modern? I think it was a banned card in Modern, right? Was it like Treasure Cruise? I don't know. It was Pioneer cards or whatever.
Like a sleight hand or something. They make sense. So what Pokemon do is you get, so Magic, you get the Friday Night Magic packs. You basically get that, but they have like promo stamps on, like the Magic
like
ones.
Magic,
But they give you a lot of them.
Sure.
So we can hand them out. We can give every player one at a challenge, or every player one at a cup, like 2 or 3 at a cup. It's like you're not short of them. Flesh and Blood are good, but they're still getting their feet. But you get the promos consistently. They're starting to move into that kind of pack thing now from playmats, because everyone's got a million playmats now.
Oh, that's a shame. That's
but
what
I'd also, it must have cost a lot shipping wise.
Playmats and stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh are fine. They've got their OTS packs. It seems like everyone just does kind of packs now. I'm thinking about it, but there's. I wouldn't say any are particularly bad. Though, not to throw Magic under the bus, but to run an RCQ event, you've got to spend
a lot of
money. Over €100 per kit just to run the event. Whereas with the other games, these kind of level events, like a Pokemon League Cup, you'll get playmats and you'll get promo packs, and you don't pay anything. So it's not like you go into an event knowing you've already got to make back £100 and something just to break even on the running the event, not giving people prizes or anything like that.
So where do you think that cost is going? Because obviously Magic I know obviously Wizards have sold it the rights to whatever company that's running the RCs. So are they cashing in?
Do Fanfinity have to pay? Do you have to bid to get the RC?
You must be bidding to run the RC and saying, we're gonna stream it, we're gonna make this many sales.
But I mean, do they have to pay WotC?
I assume it's because it's outsourced, whereas Pokemon's not outsourced. Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Tournament Center as well, but or Fanfini.
Isn't Pokemon as well Tournament Center?
So some of the events, like their regionals and stuff, they go through and they buy through Tournament Center.
Sure.
Buy the tickets through like that, but our Magic Cups and stuff, we don't. They just go straight through Pokemon.
Okay.
This is the only game where we have to run these events. We have to buy the product from a third party, really, for these kind of level events. So it makes sense when they're bigger and 1,000-person events, but just for your local 20, 30-man event, Magic's the only one that we have to run it through.
Yeah, it is odd. It is odd. But we best wrap it there, because otherwise we're all gonna be home very late. I'm sure the tournament is wrapping up hopefully soon for Simon.
I think we're in the final. I'm getting pings on my companion app.
Yeah. So hopefully it went well for James and Mikey. We'll find out in a minute. But thank you very much.
Didn't go well for us, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't go particularly well. You went 3-2.
Yeah.
I went 2-2-1.
Yeah, the perfect bubble.
Yeah, I don't know. There's too many otters in the local meta for my life.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't
It's fucking horrible.
Fun deck. Looks like a fun deck.
Oh, it looks awful. Miserable deck.
It looks like a fun deck if you want to go to time every
Little
single
engines,
round.
bounce this, play this, bounce this, play this. That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, thank you for joining us. I know
Thanks for having me.
we've always spoken about potentially doing like a little behind the scenes day in the life, and I figured this was a good introduction. And
let's just round off, because obviously you like you said at the beginning, you were childless and had nothing to lose.
Oh,
I thought you were going to say nothing to live for then when you started.
You are now you have children.
Yeah, I have a child, yeah.
And you run a successful game store, so any regrets?
Not go that far. I run a game store that is still open.
That is a success, right?
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Look at all the
Any
corpses that you're on top of.
Yeah, we have outlasted a lot of places actually, which is weird. But no, I don't have any regrets. I mean, I'd like more money. Everyone would. But because of how it is, it's nice to have the community, like to actually have people come in and say, "Oh, I came here years." It's nice, and also it provides you with a relative amount of flexibility. So if I need someone to cover me while I take my daughter to nursery or whatever, then usually I can make that happen. So it's nice to know that I don't have just a 9-to-5 that I have to go to, and if I'm ill, then that's a problem. If I have to take my daughter to something, then that's a problem. It's nice to have the flexibility. It is nice. Yeah.
To keep it going, even though I tried to sign off there, and now I'm dragging it on even more. When you like hire new staff and stuff, is it something, because it's such a personal kind of passion project, as it were? Is it something you have to be really careful with in terms of, because like when I take part in interviews for work and stuff, it's, are they going to be good at the job? It's not, do I get on with them? How flexible? Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
all these kind of things. Is it a bigger factor in a game store? Because as well, these people are like representing you and Luke and to the wider community.
Yeah, and we always choose perfectly with no problems. No. It's usually people are like, oh, I'd love to work at a game store. I get to open packs all day, and it's like. Yeah. God, no.
No.
And even when you do open packs all day, it's the most monotonous, mind-numbing thing in the world. If I never saw a trading card in my entire life, I've only seen
even
more than
sorting
enough.
my collection at home is like, I can't imagine how bad
when you walk upstairs and you see how many cards we got, and I'm just like, we need to really update everything. But it's just like, I don't want to count through 500,000 cards. But yeah, no. Picking people, usually the people that. So Ross was helping out here when we first started, so that's how we hired him. Adam just came in after uni and never left, so that's how he got fired. Sasha, Ross vouched for her, and she's been good. It's just, usually you can kind of tell the people that are going to be good or not. I wouldn't exactly say Adam and some of the people that we have hired are the epitome of charisma for customers, but they're fine.
I know.
Some people are good at different things, right? Like some people that, especially in our hobby, you don't really want to be talking to for too long. But some people,
I didn't. Like, I agree though, right? Like, I can imagine a lot of the applicants for a game store are probably not the kind of hires you'd want to make, and
not
it's
always.
It's that balance of like, I want to work in a game store. I don't know. It's
someone that has specialist knowledge of every Pokemon set from the past 20 years isn't always who you want to be serving people. But it's one of those.
And equally as well, that can cause problems with other games, right? Like if they're just Pokemon,
do get too invested into what. Yeah, they're like, oh, I really like this game. But it's like. But that's just one part of the game store. Like, you need to know a lot more than that. And I know more about every card game and board game than I would ever like. It's just there's no. I've got so much useless knowledge in here now. Like I can tell you the rough price of almost any card you hand me, and probably not be far off. It's just one of those things. It's like what. It is a funny one. It is a funny one. I think it, like, ironically, actually, at one of the card stores in Norwich, when I first started playing, it was only because one of the staff members was like, "That game's shit. Try this game," and that's kind of what got me into Magic. But it's like, in hindsight, that could have gone a completely different way as a customer.
You spoke to a different resident expert, and they'd be like, "No, not that game. This game."
Magic, Pokemon.
It is funny. No, thank you so much for coming on. It's always good to have a bit of a waffle. Yeah.
And if you're in Suffolk,
and if for some reason you've come to Lowestoft and you are lost.
Genuinely, I do think that the way you've done the store in that kind of American style, it's genuinely a really nice place to visit. Yeah. I'd say this is one of the, if you're just dropping in to have a look at a game store and like maybe buy an impulse purchase, I think this is like properly up there. It's, to be fair, it's why when I used to buy packs a lot, I used to try and avoid here, because you'd usually have the packs that other places didn't necessarily have. You'd end up spending too much money
packs, on niche play mats, niche deck boxes. It's a good time. You can spend a lot of money here.
Yes, But until next time, this has been Templar Talks Universes Beyond, our new little. we're aiming for a guest every month. So
are we gonna have to like beep that? Or we'll get soon.
Can you trademark the phrase "Universes
generic,
Beyond"?
I don't know. I'm sure Wizards have tried. I mean, Hasbro have tried.
Beyond Universes. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.